She was just 19 years old when the world fell in love with her. Diana Spencer, shy, soft-spoken, with eyes that hid both innocence and uncertainty, was swept into the spotlight almost overnight. A kindergarten teacher one day, the future Princess of Wales the next. The press called it a real-life Cinderella story, and the public couldn't get enough. Her engagement to Prince Charles was broadcast like a royal miracle. The sapphire ring, the blushing smiles, the chimes of Westminster Abbey on July 29, 1981. It all looked like something out of a dream. But beneath the layers of lace and the cheers of the crowd, Diana was already overwhelmed. No one had prepared her for the suffocating glare of the media, or the ancient machinery of the monarchy. Still, she smiled, waved, and walked down the aisle to her fate, believing, hoping, that love would conquer all. She had no idea what was waiting on the other side of that golden door. The fairy tale quickly turned cold. From the moment Diana entered Buckingham Palace, she realized she was not marrying a man. She was marrying an institution. Behind the regal curtains and polished silver, the palace was an echo chamber of silence and tradition. No warmth, no comfort, just protocol. Diana's bubbly spirit, her need for affection, her desperate craving for connection. None of it fit within the rigid mold of royal life. The courtiers watched her every move. Every mistake was whispered about, recorded, judged. Her husband, Prince Charles, grew more distant by the day. Conversations became brief, affection rare. She was surrounded by people, yet felt utterly alone. She would later say, "There were 3 of us in this marriage, so it was a bit crowded." But even before the world knew about Camilla, Diana knew something was deeply wrong. She cried alone in hallways. She was ignored at dinners. Her voice, her emotions, were considered inconveniences. In the world's most famous palace, Diana had never felt more invisible. The fairy tale shattered behind closed doors. Diana tried to make the marriage work. She truly did. But Prince Charles's heart was never hers. It belonged to someone else, Camila Parker Bowles. From the very beginning, Diana sensed it. The secret phone calls, the whispered messages, the knowing looks between Charles and Camilla at royal events. The truth was there even if the crown tried to hide it. Diana confronted Charles. He denied it at first, then dismissed her pain. She was young, emotional, too sensitive, they said. But the evidence became impossible to ignore. One day, Diana found a bracelet engraved with the initials F and G, short for Fred and Gladys, Charles and Camilla's private nicknames. It was meant for Camilla. Diana was devastated. Her trust collapsed, and so did her sense of self. She wasn't just betrayed as a wife, she was betrayed as a woman. And worse, she had to smile through it all. The world still saw the dazzling gowns and tiaras, but inside, she was drowning. In the castle built on loyalty, Diana discovered that love was not always royal, and betrayal was very much alive. Behind the palace gates, Diana was unraveling. The betrayal, the isolation, the relentless pressure, it all began to take its toll. Her smile in public became a mask. Behind it, she was battling a storm no one could see. In secret, she developed bulimia. Food became both a weapon and a refuge, something she could control when everything else was spiraling. She began self-harming, not for attention, but out of sheer emotional agony. She once threw herself down a staircase while pregnant, desperate to be heard. But her cries were met with cold indifference. Her pain wasn't a priority, appearances were. She opened up to a few friends, but even they couldn't fully grasp the weight she carried. "I was crying out for help," she later said, "but giving the wrong signals." The palace, fearing scandal, ignored her suffering. To the world, she was a radiant princess. But in reality, she was a young woman collapsing under the pressure of an image she could no longer sustain. And no one, not even the crown, seemed willing to save her. But from the ruins, Diana began to rise. She realized that if the palace wouldn't protect her, she would protect herself. And, more than that, she would protect others. The same empathy that had made her vulnerable became her greatest strength. She walked through landmine fields in Angola. She cradled AIDS patients when others were too afraid to touch them. She hugged crying children in orphanages, stood beside the homeless, comforted the sick. The world saw her not as a princess, but as something even more powerful, a symbol of humanity. Her divorce from Charles was finalized in 1996. She was no longer Her Royal Highness, but she didn't need the title. Diana had become the people's princess, a voice for the voiceless, a rebel wrapped in grace. She was finally living her own story, on her own terms. But just as the world began to see her for who she truly was, fate would intervene in the most tragic way. It was a warm summer night in Paris, August 31st, 1997. Diana and her companion, Dodi Fayed, were trying to escape the flashing storm of paparazzi. They slipped out of the Ritz Hotel through the back, hoping for a moment of peace. But the photographers found them. Cameras in hand, they chased the car through the darkened streets. Then, tragedy. In the Pont de l'Alma tunnel, the Mercedes crashed into a pillar at high speed. The world didn't know it yet, but the people's princess was gone. The news broke like a thunderclap. Crowds gathered at Buckingham Palace in silence. Grown men wept. Children lit candles. A sea of flowers flooded Kensington Palace gates. Over 1 million bouquets laid by mourners from every corner of the globe. Diana's death was more than a loss. It was a reckoning. It exposed the brutal price of fame, the cruelty of the press, and the monarchy's icy silence. In life, Diana was often unheard. In death, her voice roared louder than ever, echoing through history, immortal in heartbreak. Princess Diana wasn't just a royal, she was a mirror, reflecting both the beauty and the brutality of our world. Her story was not a fairy tale, but a tragedy wrapped in grace. And though she's gone, her legacy remains, a reminder that even in the darkest places, compassion can still shine.